Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a team that I was able to climb up to 2933 ELO with in the Open Great League, which at the time of recording is ranked within the top 100 battlers on the global leaderboard. Now, the team is centered around a very unorthodox Pokemon, and that is BRONZONG. BRONZONG hardly ever sees Open Great League play, but it can be an interesting core breaker for teams reliant on Dragons, Wigglytuff, stuff like Victory Bell, and Annihilate. For the save switch, I'm running Trailblaze Greedent, and as the closer, Superior. Now you may notice this is a very unbalanced team, and that's why I do not recommend that other people try it for themselves. It was built to counter the meta that I was seeing. This team has a tremendous amount of flaws. One singular fire type sweeps the entire team, one singular Mandibuzz sweeps the entire team. There are quite a few Pokemon that are a massive problem for the team overall, so while I don't recommend trying it yourself, I do think it is a very interesting case study in that sometimes very unbalanced teams can work in specific ELO ranges. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and let's take a look at me getting top 100 in the world with a Great League BRONZONG. Hopping into the first match, and we're off to an amazing start leading BRONZONG into a Shadow Victory Bell. Victory Bell gets absolutely crushed here. They're forced to switch out instantly, and they send in an Annihilate, and that is not a better response. And this was kind of the goal with the team, is I was seeing a lot of teams that happened to get core broken by BRONZONG in the meta, and then I kind of tried to support it as best as I could. There was a fellow trainer, Beelzeboy, who actually managed to hit Legend with BRONZONG, running BRONZONG, Greedent, and Mandibuzz. I tried that for a little bit. I didn't end up loving Mandibuzz in a meta where Azumarill is so prevalent, so I switched it up to Superior, and Superior ended up working out way better. They send in the Victory Bell, they take a Confusion in the process, and I'm going to send in Superior. I'm going to overfarm by 1, and they still get the catch. I overfarmed by 1 to avoid the catch. That was a perfect prediction by my opponent. However, they are in a very tough spot now because they're going to have to deal with Bastiodon going up against my Trailblaze Greedent. And Greedent, the first Trailblaze, is never going to look too threatening, but the boosts, more and more Mudshot damage, just absolutely tear Bastiodon to shreds. And Bastiodon's pacing is truly terrible, and it's really when going up against mons that have good pacing like Greedent that you really notice it. I'm going to be able to get to 3 Trailblazes before they are able to make it to 2 moves. And I am massively overfarmed as well. So I'm going to fire off the Trailblaze. Trailblaze picks up the KO. I'm still healthy enough that I can make it to a heavily boosted Body Slam, which means they are forced to shield. And I can just bring in Superior, only 4 Vine Whips away from making it to an Aerial Ace. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. We've got a terrible lead in the next match, BRONZONG vs Shadow Whiscash. I save switch to Greedent. They're going to stay in here with the Whiscash, and Whiscash will fire off the Mud Bomb. Mud Bomb, I'm never going to be shielding here because I'm expecting they're going to send in a Skarmory, but that is not a Skarmory. Instead, they send out Mantine. Mantine, definitely a Pokemon that I'm happy to bait out because, of course, being a flyer, they're able to hit for super effective damage onto Superior. My hope is that since they didn't send out Skarmory, that instead there's a matchup where potentially Superior can actually do okay in the back. They're going to be firing off their energy. They go for an Aerial Ace, which does not KO, and I can return fire with another Body Slam. Unfortunately, this does not knock out. Mantine does have some very nice bulk to it. Opponent will go for the Aerial Ace. I do want to try and grab at least 1 shield from my opponent, so I will commit the shield. I'm going to massively overfarm. I'm not at back-to-back moves here, but I am pretty close. If they try and farm down, I may be able to get there. Opponent does not want to risk it, and they will fire off the energy. That works for me, as this is going to allow me to get energy on the BRONZONG as I can Confusion down. That's another matchup, BRONZONG and a Mantine, where the BRONZONG is going to do quite well. I send in Superior. Oh my goodness. In the back, it's Dugong. I feel like a bait is risky here. They might try and call it, so I will full send the Frenzy Plant, and unfortunately they do shield. That is a little bit rough. I'm going to shield myself, and then I am going to be firing off the Frenzy Plant. Since it's debuffed, a Frenzy Plant will not be enough to KO here, unfortunately, but I still have to go for it. So the Frenzy Plant is going to get them low. Opponent will fire off their energy, but this does potentially set up win cons for BRONZONG. I was able to get a couple Vine Whips onto my opponent's Shadow Whiscash, and Shadow Whiscash cannot knock out with 1 move. These confusions will add up. They are not within 4 Mudshots of a move here, so what I can do is just throw 4 Confusions and then go for the Payback. If Payback KOs, I've somehow won the game. The Payback does knock out the Shadow Whiscash, and I'm able to take the game. We move to the next match. What a lead. Nidoqueen back from the dead and a Medicham as well. Now, this is a team that was run a decent amount in previous seasons. It's the Shadow Nidoqueen, either Medicham or Defense Deoxys, and then a Bastiodon in the back. The goal is use either Nidoqueen or Medicham to basically brute force alignment, and then either way, you can just kind of overwhelm people with correct alignment with Bastiodon in the back. But I have an amazing lead here, so I'm able to grab a shield from the opponent with the Bronzong, and now I can send in Serperior. Serperior is going to fire off the Frenzy Plant. Even though it's neutral, it does do more here, and the Frenzy Plant plus the Vine Whip is enough to get the KO. That's great news for me. Opponent is going to get a healthy farm with the Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen, however, is going to take a ton of damage from Frenzy Plant, so I will fire off the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant gets shielded by my opponent, and I just fall short of making it to the Aerial Ace. In comes the Bronzong. They probably bait here, but I am going to shield because, honestly, the confusion damage is just too valuable. In the back, it's Bastiodon. I'm going to throw 2 confusions, so I'm very close to a Psyshock, and now I send in Greedent. I'm down a decent amount of energy, and I am in the 0 shield. But I'm going to be able to make this pretty close with the Greedent. I'm going to start spamming out these Trailblazes here, boosting up my attack more and more, and these Mud Shots are just starting to tear through the Bastiodon. Trailblaze number 2. Opponent should be 3 off the move. I can't make the Trailblaze, but what I can do is throw 4 Mud Shots. I wait the turn. 2 is actually CMP tie them here. This is very important, as now they can't just farm me down. So waiting the turn there to CMP is going to be a game-winning play for me. I can bring in the Bronzong. I know that they were 5 jabs off, so I can very comfortably throw 2 confusions at the Nidoqueen and knock out with the Psyshock. In comes the Bastiodon. I am 2 confusions away from Psyshock number 2, and this is just a very satisfying win. Bronzong KOing Bastiodon, and I'm able to take the win. Hopping into the next match, Bronzong vs Shadow Gligar. Not an amazing lead. Gligars do like to bait here, but it takes bravery to call this bait, because since it's Shadow, a dig is going to do massive, massive damage. I will commit the shield, and I get baited with the Aerial Ace. Oh, that is so unfortunate. If you don't get baited with the Aerial Ace in the 2s, this matchup actually can end up pretty fine for the Bronzong. A dig does not fully one-shot a Bronzong, but I don't have the most amazing IVs, so I did decide to respect it. I decided to double shield here. This time, I do get the shield call right, and now my opponent will have to burn the final shield if they want to preserve the Gligar. They're just going to let the Gligar go. They send in Skarmory, and this is not amazing for me. I will be able to make it to a payback, which is good, but my backline is very soft to Skarm. I fire off the payback. They let that go, and that's really good for me. My opponent is going to fire off energy. I'm low enough where a Sky Attack will actually knock out. So they will go for the Sky Attack, and now I can just send in Greedent. Greedent immediately to be met with the Brave Bird. Brave Bird's going to do a ton of damage. It all comes down to what they have in the back. That's not good. It's Annihilate. Annihilate just does a massive amount of damage. I'm going to bait with the Aerial Ace. My only hope is trying to make it to a Frenzy Plant. A Frenzy Plant is going to do more than an Aerial Ace here, so I'm farming up. They're going to fire off their energy, and this should be Shadow Ball range. Serperior is bulky, but not bulky enough, and failing to survive that, I will concede the match. We move to the next match, Bronzong versus Vigoroth, and this is another matchup where since Vigoroth's charge attacks are walled, this is actually a pretty okay matchup for the Bronzong. Bronzong is going to be able to survive multiple body slams. A payback does just under 50%, a Psyshock does around 38%, so after the confusion that just lands, I can actually knock out with the payback. Or if I wanted to, I could have done one more confusion and tried for a Psyshock KO, but I wanted to preserve a little bit of HP. So down goes Vigoroth. Opponent is going to send in Charjabug, but since I preserved a little bit of extra HP, I'm actually able to make a Psyshock. This is very valuable. My backline is a little bit soft to Charjabug. Honestly, the entire team is a little bit soft to Charjabug. Again, it's not a very well-balanced team. It was mainly just, I wanted to run Bronzong because I've had success with it on high leaderboards before, and I wanted to try and support it and make it as difficult as possible for opponents to run a Azumarill. They will fire off the X-Scissor. In the back, oh, that's really bad news. They have Goodra. I will fire off the Body Slam. I'm hoping my opponent ends up shielding this because they don't know what's in back, and they do shield it, and now I can send in Serperior. The good news for me is that my opponent has 0 ability to inflict charge move damage because the typical Goodra moveset is Aqua Tail Thunder Punch. I go for the Frenzy Plant, which is the correct move to go for here since it does do more damage. I will commit the shield in case they have a rogue Draco Meteor, but they do not. They're just going to spam out Aqua Tails. Aqua Tail and Thunder Punch do the same damage here, but Thunder Punch is more expensive, so they're just always going to go for the Aqua Tail. The thing I have to be very careful of is a potential catch onto Charjabug. That's a win con for my opponent. So they will land the Aqua Tail. I'm going to be able to make it to the Frenzy, but I have to watch for a potential catch. So I'm just going to keep farming here. Watch for the catch. There it is. I'm able to hold on to the energy. In comes Greedent, and I just make it to the Body Slam before the Volt Switch picks up the knockout. Body Slam KOs. Goodra gets the farm down. I'm low on health on Superior, but I live the Dragon Breath that goes through. Fire off the Frenzy. Frenzy KOs, and with a fraction of HP, I'm able to take the win. We've got a negative lead in the next match, Bronzong versus Whiscash. I save switch into the Greedent, expecting them to go for a move and then send out the Skarmory. They're going to fire off energy. I'm never going to be shielding here because I know they're switching in a bad matchup for Greedent. They send out Gligar. Okay, baiting this out is pretty nice. And the fact that there wasn't a Skarmory to greet me does give me hope that there just isn't a Skarmory in the back. I'm going to overfarm quite a bit with Greedent. They should be able to undertap the dig and pick up the knockout to deny me making this move, and that's exactly what they're going to do. I'm going to no shield in case they make a mistake and go for the Aerial Ace, and they do. Okay, they go for the Aerial Ace. Awesome. I'm now going to be able to force a shield or switch advantage. The Body Slam KOs. I win switch. I'm going to have Whiscash on Superior. This is looking really good until it isn't. It's a Shadow Claw, a Alolan Sandslash. They get a perfect farm down. And unfortunately, it's me who's going to be taking the loss in this game. My only win con is for some reason they go for a terrible bait, but they do not. Drill Run picks up the KO. I have no ability to win that game, so I will concede the match. We see a great lead in the next match, Bronzong versus Shadow Dragonite. I can survive Dragon Breaths plus a superpower, but if they're staying in, that means they're probably not the strongest against this Pokemon, so I will commit the shield. They fire off the superpower. They're going to send in a Azumarill, and this is why I wanted Superior on the team. This team is horrifically unbalanced, but all three team members have neutral to positive matchups against the Azumarill. And Azumarill is just inescapable at the moment, my goodness. I'm a little worried that Azumarill can actually live 2 Vine Whips here, so I don't want to risk it. I'm just going to fire off the Aerial Ace and pick up the KO. The opponent is going to be able to get a nice farm down with the Dragonite. If my clock was up, I would just Aerial Ace and aggressively pivot back into the Bronzong, but unfortunately it's not. So they're just going to shield and farm me down. So my clock, not quite up, so I'm just going to send in Bronzong, get a Confusion off, and shield. The Confusion is going to do a lot, especially if they superpower, because the damage didn't register yet. Oh no, Trainer! And in the back, it's a Venusaur. I have back-to-back Psyshocks here. This is going to do so much damage to the Venusaur. Venusaur now does have the Frenzy, so I Psyshock, switch into Greedent, and this gets me a small energy head start. I was going to be able to outpace the Dragonite anyway. This just makes it a heck of a lot easier. In comes the Dragonite, and the opponent is going to resign the match. In the next match, I'm battling against the battler who actually inspired me to use Bronzong, Beelzeboy, who managed to hit Legend with the Bronzong, Greedent, and Mandibuzz team. I'm thrilled to be playing him, but if he has Mandibuzz in the back, I am 110% losing this game. I full send the payback. It connects, dealing massive damage to the Bronzong. I decide that I will actually keep the Bronzong healthy. He switches into a Quagsire, so running a different team than he posted that he hit Legend with, and that's really good news for me because I have Superior. Superior going to be able to tank the Stone Edge. I'm going to look to overfarm quite substantially and go for the Aerial Ace right before he's able to make Stone Edge number 2. Aerial Ace will be able to pick up the knockout, and if he sends in the Bronzong, I can just knock that out with an Aerial Ace. But there's a Skarmory in the back. Oh boy, this is really not good. I'm going to go for the double resisted Frenzy because again, it will do slightly more than a single resisted Aerial Ace. That's just how good of a move Frenzy Plant is. I'm going to fire off yet another Frenzy Plant. My energy would have been so valuable into so many things, but honestly, even against that Skarmory, it still put it to half HP. I aggressively switch into the Bronzong. Opponent is going to fire off the Brave Bird, and I get the shield call right. They're going to switch out into their own Bronzong, trying to make it to a move, but they do not get there. Their Bronzong unable to make it to the payback, and now I can just spam Psyshocks at this Skarmory. Skarmory is going to be forced to double shield, and I still have a full health Greedent. And the nice thing about Greedent is it's bulky enough that after some Steel Wings, I can survive a Brave Bird. Opponent is going to need a Brave Bird to pick up the knockout onto the Bronzong. A Sky Attack will not be enough to KO. They decide to go for the double Sky Attack route because this way, at the very least, they do not lower their defense. They're really hoping that it's something like double Grass in the back, and I have a little bit of a fake Grass type here with the Greedent, but I'm just in a 1 position at this point. I'll fire off the Body Slam. I switch to the Superior. Superior does not get the catch. They're going to be able to make the Brave Bird, but Greedent is still healthy enough that I will be able to survive this charge attack. And in the Battle of Bronzong, I am able to take the win. Hopping into the final match, oh, this is a disastrous lead. Bronzong versus Shadow Magnezone. The nice thing here is Shadow Magnezone has 0 bulk, so these confusions are shredding through this Pokemon. Oh my goodness. I'm going to fire off a Psyshock. They're probably going to be shielding everything here. And now, they're going to return fire with a charge attack of their own. I will respect the potential wild charge, and they go for it. This means the confusions are going to do so much damage. The opponent is at a wild charge plus mirror shot here. I have energy. I want to keep it. I shield it. It's the mirror shot bait, and I'm forced to switch out because I lose charge attack priority. So I save energy on the Bronzong, but I take a massive wild charge, and the Magnezone player just lets themselves get KO'd. That's an interesting play. That shows that they did not want to switch lock the Mantine. They instead just forgo the catch opportunity, but now they can switch it anytime. I'm able to make 2 body slams, and this is very nice because this should put it very, very close to a range where I can knock out with a payback, which I do have stored on the Bronzong. They have a lot of energy. I believe they built up to the back-to-back aerial aces here. I'm going to fire off this payback, and I hope it's going to be enough to KO or at least grab the final shield. So I will go for the payback. If they survive, they're still 1 short of a potential Water Pulse. I switch trying to snipe, but it's a Azumarill in the back. The team that I built to try and just hard counter Azumarill sees Azumarill at the absolute perfect time. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match, and that caps off the back-to-back 4-1 sets, taking me from the 2830s all the way up to 2933 elo. All in all, I had a ton of fun getting to run this team, but as I mentioned at the start, it's not a team that I would recommend that viewers try, because I don't think it'll have similar results at different elo brackets. Because this elo bracket was just very heavily oversaturated with stuff like Azu, and then fast move pressure teams like Wigglytuff, Bastiodon, some Annihilate. So I was able to run a pretty unbalanced team and have pretty nice results because I wasn't seeing stuff like Mandibuzz or Fire types, whereas those are probably going to be more common at other elo ranges. I do want to give credit to Beelzeboy, who actually ended up playing in the video. I have run Bronzong in the Open Great League before. 2 seasons back, I was able to get to page 1, number 16 in the world with it, with a different team, and I was re-inspired after seeing that he was able to hit Legend with it. I didn't end up enjoying the Mandibuzz variant of it as much, but switching to Superior, I felt had really nice synergy, just because Azu had absolutely nowhere to run against the team. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys, always very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.